Hello everyone and welcome to the second tutorial in my Crafting and Survival Essentials series. Today, let's talk about item management and how we can best track potentially thousands of items and their relevant pieces of data with actually very little work. Let's jump in. With a problem such as building a system to support a potentially endless amount of data, we need to think like designers so that we can choose a tool that is both easy to use and effective. For this job, data tables are the key. To briefly explain, data tables in the Unreal Engine 4 are based on two particular types of files. One is called a CSV, and one is called a JSON. We'll be focusing on the CSV file type, which stands for comma separated values. We can picture it like a spreadsheet, with columns and rows. We can use this on Unreal by taking the first column and making it a list of things, let's say types of swords. Then each preceding column is a relevant type of information about that sword. Lastly, each row is filled in, starting with the name of the item, and then the appropriate pieces of information about that item. As you can see, it becomes a simplified database that's easily expandable in both the types of items you can enter and the amount of entries you can actually have. Now, that's just a really short overview of what it is. Let's actually create a usable CSV. One of the greatest boons to using CSVs is that they are able to be made across a large variety of software, including Google Sheets, unlocking access to designing your game while out and about. For this example, I'm going to use Google Sheets. I've already loaded up a brand new Google Sheet here, so take a moment to create one for yourself. We're going to start off with the second column. Let's put name in here. Next to this, let's put description. Lastly, besides that, let's put value. These are the types of information that this data table will support. Now, let's add some entries. The first column is left without a header and merely has row values. These values represent the name of the entry itself, kind of like the title of a book. For the first entry, let's put oak logs. Now we have an entry called oak logs. Let's fill in the details about this entry. In the name column, add oak logs again. In the description, let's write something simple. A simple pile of logs. Lastly, let's set the value to 1. This is a single entry in our data table, but let's add 2 more. Add another entry called stone axe, and give it a name value of stone axe, a description value with a worn primitive tool, and a value of 5. Lastly, let's add one last entry called steel sword. Give it a name value of steel sword, a description of a durable weapon fit for a warrior, and a value of 20. That marks the completion of our data table. To have this data table used by Unreal, we need to download it in the form of a CSV file. Click File, Download, and choose the CSV option. Now, let's hop back into Unreal. Data tables in Unreal are based on an item called a structure. If you are unfamiliar with structures, I've placed a link in the description of this video to another video I've done on the subject. Let's create our item structure. Right-click, Blueprints, and select Structure. Name it st_item, and open it up. Structures that are used for data tables requires a variable per column, with a data type to match the data found in that column. To start, we need a variable called name, of the type string. Next, we need another variable called description, and this will also be of the type string. Lastly, we need a variable called value, of the type int. Now the structure is set up to match the data found in our data table. Let's actually import that data table now. Navigate back to the content browser and click the import button. Find where your CSV file is stored, select it, and click import. You'll be given a prompt with some import options. Leave the import as option set to data table, and for choose data table row type, select our st_item structure. Click OK, and you should see a new data table asset become created in the content browser. Let's open it. Now you'll have the data you wrote on Google fully available in this data table, with the information laid out according to the variables we defined in our structure. Whenever you want to update this information, All you need to do is simply re-import this asset, and all the data found in that original CSV file will be re-imported and stated here. Additionally, to see how that first column in the data table is used, if you look to the row editor interface, you'll notice a dropdown. This is the list of identifiers used for each row, or the values we put in that first column. Now it's much easier to pick out rows instead of using something arbitrary like numbers. Now that our data table is actually in the project, let's demonstrate actually using and reading that data at runtime. Let's create a blueprint that will represent the item in the world. Right-click in the content browser and select a new blueprint class of the actor type called BP_item. Open it up. Let's add a new variable called item. Change its data type to data table row handle. This is the type representing a row in a particular data table. Now, in the dropdown, change the value for data table to our data table asset, and feel free to choose one of the rows available in the dropdown. Make sure to make this variable public. Next, create another variable called item info, and change its data type to st_item. To briefly explain, the item variable will be editable by instance in the level, allowing the developer to pick the information of each and every item. Then, some code we will add shortly will use that row identifier to go into the data table, retrieve the found item information, and store it in our item info variable to be used by us in future situations. With that in mind, let's actually add that code. We'll be using our construction script for this exercise, as it will run this code whenever we make a change to the instance or object. Drag in a get reference to our item variable. Then, from it, look up break data table row handle. Next, right-click and add a get data table row node. Connect the entry execution pin to the purple construction script node, and connect the data table and row name pins to the break node. Next, drag in a set reference to our item info variable and connect it to the row found execution pin. Make sure to plug the out row pin to the item info pin on this set node. Next, right-click and add a print string node and connect it to our set reference node. Lastly, from the output pin on the set node, look up break st_item. Connect the description pin, or any other pin of your choosing, to the in-string pin. That's it. Now let's quickly review what we just did. Whenever we make an edit to an instance of BP_item, this code will be ran. It will take the row information we set in our item variable and use it to fetch the exact row information using the get data table row node. Here, it will output that row information, which we can use for other means later. For this example, we will be merely printing the description that is found for that entry. Now, with that in mind, let's actually go and test it. Navigate back to the viewport and drag a copy of our BP_item into the scene. You'll notice that as you do, the code from earlier will start running. This is because we are moving the asset, so it is running the construction script over and over again, updating its item information each and every time. In the details panel, while the BP is selected, look under the item dropdown. Try changing the row name to a different option. Each time you change it, you'll notice the relevant description is read for that particular option. With that in mind, the tutorial is now complete. Data tables are immensely helpful when dealing with information that is read in by a system. Common places to see it are crafting and survival systems, dialogue systems, unit info charts, etc. Once the code is in place, you'll only really need to change the data table itself, which not only reduces labor down the road, but helps provide flexibility as to where you can edit the core values of your title, and much, much more. And that's it. Thank you once again for joining me. If you liked this video or found it useful, please make sure to hit that like button, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Most importantly though, leave your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below, as I'd love to hear them. As always, I'll see you all in the next one.